From United Nations Television, this is UN in Action.
Gorée Island, Senegal. This is the house of slaves and its door of no return. The point where millions of slaves were sold and shipped to British, Dutch, French, Spanish, and Portuguese colonies around the world. Centuries later, in 2007, the United Nations General Assembly agreed to establish a permanent memorial on the grounds of the United Nations in honor of the victims of slavery and the transatlantic slave trade.
Thousands of them paid the
Prime Minister of
ultimate
Jamaica,
price.
Portia Simpson.
Their blood, sweat, tears watered the sugar plantations across our region. Some led rebellions and were tortured and hanged. They paid the price for our freedom with their lives. We must continue to acknowledge the tragedy and consider the legacy, lest we forget.
In 2011, together with UNESCO, the Permanent Memorial Committee launched an international design competition. Under-Secretary General of the UN Department of Public Information, Peter Lonsky-Tiffenthal.
It was very important to set a symbolic gesture, a sign here at United Nations headquarters to commemorate the victims of transatlantic slave trade. And through that experience, be reminded of the atrocities committed, and at the same time to make sure that events like this would not occur again.
Some 310 nationals from 83 countries and 5 continents submitted their proposals. 16 made the initial cut. Dr. David Boxer, former curator of the National Gallery of Jamaica and chairman of the 5-panel jury.
Up to that stage, this was a blind competition. We knew nothing about the participants. And from that blind competition, we were able to choose 7 people, and then we were informed who they were. And I tell you, there were some surprises.
An architecture student from China, famous architects from Italy, the United States, France, Colombia, Portugal, and Finland. Among the 7 finalists, only 1 model would be chosen. Nervous, anxious, and excited, the finalists weren't even sure what the judges were looking for.
The big challenge for me was to find something that spoke to both things. The tragedy itself, which requires a memorial in a more traditional sense, and something that's aspirational, something that looks towards the future and that deals with the whole question of hope.
I know this is the moment we've all been waiting for. The winning design for the permanent memorial is Mr. Rodney Leon's Arc of Return.
A descendant of slaves shipped to Haiti from the coast of Africa, Rodney is an architect based in New York. Known for his work on the African Burial Ground National Monument in Lower Manhattan, he explains his design.
What we decided to do was to establish a design that was reflective of a ship, at the same time space that people can actually interact with and kind of come in to learn more about the transatlantic slave passage.
Expected to be on display in New York in 2014, the memorial will serve as a reminder to millions of visitors, teaching future generations to remember one of the most tragic events in history. The Arc of Return, a stark contrast to the door of no return. will stand as a call to action to ensure that this tragedy is never to be repeated. This report was produced by Mary Ferreira for the United Nations.